And hi, everyone. It is March the 31st, 2024, and we are 1 week away from the April 8th solar eclipse that's going through the United States. So therefore, it's important, right? If the solar eclipse was happening in Spain or Africa or Cambodia, it would be quite a bit generally ignored. But because it's in the United States, it's getting a lot of traction. And there are a ton of theories rampant around this particular date, from there'll be an EMP attack to a terrorist attack to Jesus returning to a portal opening to nothing happening. And at first, I was paying no attention to it because it's an eclipse. Depending on which model you want to use, whether you're using a globe Earth or a flat Earth, the basic principle is still the same. Whatever one thinks the moon is passing whatever one thinks the sun is, and the light is blocked out for 2 or 3 minutes. I've experienced eclipses before. It's kind of strange, but then the lights come back. But about a week ago, I began bumping into the overkill that is starting to happen with various government agencies in the United States that are literally declaring states of emergency for a solar eclipse. That's how this sort of began, right? It was, why are states literally in some cases calling in the National Guard for an eclipse, declaring that people should be prepared for anything, that they should store food, they should store water, they should, an eclipse. How about Texas, which is stopping all commercial truck travel for the day? Like, trucks can't be on the road delivering anything. Trucks transport just about everything in North America, and no trucks are allowed to be on the road on that date. Schools are closed. The reason they're saying schools are closed is that they want children to see the eclipse. Well, again, like I said, why wouldn't you do that at school? And the school class could go out, put the special glasses on, see the eclipse. They could all come back in and talk about it. Now, do I think anything physical will happen on this day? Similar to Y2K or the famous December 2012, where there was theory after theory, projection of fear after fear, nothing physical anyway happened on those dates. So everyone thinks nothing happened. Certainly for the December 2012, something did happen. There's no question. There was an energetic shift. And a lot of what we're experiencing now is coming through 2 previous energetic shifts, one in September 2001, the other from December 2012. The one in 2001, we noticed that one, it was physical. The one in 2012 was subtle, it was energetic. And the reason I'm putting out this video today is that it's going to be an energetic marker of what's coming. For some reason, and I don't think it's just in general. It's not just because there's an eclipse, and we can talk about eclipses as well, that there is a long history in the ancient world of what's happening energetically during an eclipse. And I can share some of the things I've always done during an eclipse. And it's more important today because of, obviously, all of this bizarre things that are happening on top of it. All of the things that are being added by what we'll call government agencies to the solar eclipse. What NASA's doing, what Cern is doing. The stuff is so strange that it's all happening at the same time. There's an indication that they are attempting to manipulate something energetically. That's why I haven't done a spiritual warfare video for a long, long time. Like a long time with that particular title. That's obviously from the standpoint of what's in the dream, the standpoint of this simulated reality. I get the sense that they may be attempting to turn not so much the switch off on this one, they might be looking to turn the switch on into the new simulation. That's actually what's going to happen. And they're going to use this particular moment based on whatever energies slash, we'll just call them energies are present in our particular area of the universe at this time. So in that respect, I think it's important. And it's important for the standpoint of exiting the matrix, because that's what this is all about, right? For me, it's not, I have no interest in making this a better world necessarily. I'm interested because I don't think it's possible. This world is dying and needs to die, really. We're getting ready for the next one. We're getting ready to stay out of the next simulation. We're getting ready to go home. This is the great opportunity. And the great opportunity is going to happen now. So many of these things that are layered over, and I'm going to go into a few different aspects of it now, because it'll indicate that it'll indicate a bit on what's happening. First, we'll start with Cern. So CERN, which hasn't really fired up for 2 years, is going to fire up on April the 8th during the eclipse. And it will fire up supposedly to smash protons together, because they're going to be searching for, depending on the article, and I'll have all of these links below so you can go and read these yourself. Although I would assume most of you who are watching this video, you have seen 5 other videos like this already. I'm just giving my personal overview and opinion on it. This stuff probably isn't surprising to anyone, but they're either looking for dark matter or what they're calling ghost particles, which is really, really interesting that they want to look for ghost particles, right, on this particular day, at this particular moment of time. And there's a whole lot of questions as to what CERN is really doing, like what their whole purpose really is, right? Here they're going to be, and it's on exactly the 8th of April, they're going to send the beams through the tunnel where they're going to collide at 7 miles per hour less than the speed of light. So 11,245 times per second. They will rattle the protons around the Hadron accelerator and then see if they can, and then collide the beams in their hunt for dark matter / ghost particles. Why do they need to do this on the day of the great solar eclipse in North America? They could do it any other day. They could do it today. They could do it April the 19th. They could do it May 4th. But it has to be at the exact time the solar eclipse is occurring. They're doing that for a reason. And if you look into some things about what happens gravitationally during an eclipse, very scientific, again, I'll put the links below, there is a decrease of gravity on the Earth during a solar eclipse. Part of it is known as the Alais effect. There's an actual measurable decrease in whatever gravity is, which is not, of course, anything anyone tells us. Whatever Newtonian physics tries to tell us, that's a false explanation of whatever this force really is, right? It's something to do with space-time, is what really gravity is. We just experience the most dense level of it. But during an eclipse, it's less dense. So is it possible during an eclipse that you can, if you know what you're doing, you can hover off the ground and levitate? I recently had some dreams again over the last week where I was, I don't want to say flying, but where I was, weightless in the dream, able to not have to walk or run on the ground. And it was not just was it a freeing experience, it felt natural. Always when I wake up from such a dream, I always look back and start thinking, why do I walk on the ground? Why do I run? Why do I tether myself to the earth when obviously I should just be casually, in a sense, floating around, relaxed and without using up any energy? So the fact that CERN is doing this attempt to look for particle accelerators, at least that's what they're saying they're doing, looking for dark matter in the course of a dark period when gravity is less. You've got a question mark there. You've got a question mark that you've got during this period. You've also got, I think it's 7 planets lining up in perfect order at this particular moment. That's strange. That's very, very strange that it happens whenever it happens, but that it'll happen during the solar eclipse. You've got the return of this thing known as the Devil's Comet, right? We don't want to forget that. The famed Devil's Comet will be in the sky. And a lot of people are talking about that CERN, one of the things they say CERN is doing is opening portals to other dimensions, attempting to bring demonic beings into this realm, which is a high possibility of what they're doing. I still think they're building the new simulation, but building the simulation it's being built for the archons, right? It's an archon demonic creation, so they're involved in it already. I don't necessarily think they need to open portals to bring them in. They're already here. We just might start seeing more and more of them. Did you notice the story a couple of weeks ago? No, less than that, like a week ago. At least 10 to 15 news agencies put out an article and newscast on a man who has some sort of disorder. They're calling it some sort of psychic disorder where he sees people's faces look like demons. Have you seen this? It's one of the strangest things, and it has to come out now. It has to come out like right now. And so there's, of course, a wondering that is something going to occur, right? Is something going to occur around the eclipse that people will start to see demonic beings? It has an actual name. It's called prosompmetamorphosia. It's an actual name. It's an actual, supposedly disorder. They want to call it a disorder, a condition, where you see people's faces look like demons because perhaps they want to do this because soon, just like they live, the glasses are going to be, in a sense, going on for a lot of people, and they're actually going to see what things really look like here. And they want a quick answer for everybody. Oh, it's just this disorder. Remember, it was on the news last week. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. They're not really demons. They're just, they're just your neighbors. Don't worry about it. So that's strange. At the exact same time, now we have NASA, our wonderful friends over at NASA. They're going to fire 3 rockets into the dark matter. They're claiming the reason they're doing that, into the shadow. They're claiming into the shadow. They're going to launch from White Sands Missile Base in New Mexico, claiming to, what's the exact reason that they're claiming that they're doing this for? To check for, what is it? I have to check to see what they're going to be checking for, what they say they're going to be checking for. Claiming to do things like checking for measuring the changes in electric and magnetic fields, density and temperature in the ionosphere during an eclipse, and how it might relate to radio signals, satellite signals, and communication signals. Which is why some people, I think, are claiming that this is related to some sort of test of the equivalent of an EMP attack on someone. How to do it in the ionosphere. What makes this so bizarre is that the name of this project is the atmospheric perturbations around the eclipse path, named APEP. And they are very clearly, this is in the Forbes article that I'm linking, right? They clearly obviously mention that APEP is named for the serpent deity from ancient Egyptian mythology, nemesis to the sun deity Ra, according to NASA. They move on to discuss after that. This is important. APOP or APEP, depending on which Egyptologist handles the translation, is the being that battles Ra, the sun, who tries to take over the sun every night. Ra must travel on his solar boat and defeat APOP each morning in order for the sun to rise. APOP being a serpent deity, and is either defeated, often shown in two ways. One, Ra himself turns into a cat, and it is the cat which defeats him, and he is usually seen biting the neck of APOP. The other is on the solar boat itself. It is Set who is spearing APEP, and this is really important because, again, when you look at ancient mythology, you have a problem. We have a problem with mythology in that mythology is doing two things. It's doing two completely different things at the same time. One, it's describing the creation of the universe, and it's describing the basically evil archonic beings that have built and control and manipulate all levels of material, of the material and non-material simulation. You've got a secondary piece of it, which might be called spiritual knowledge, which is related on how to deal with this particular reality and the ways to overcome that and the ways to move past it to your true nature, to the divine spark, to whatnot. So the problem is that they have been merged so smoothly together over time that it, first of all, without knowing, you have two completely different types of knowledge being placed in. One which is about the archonic beings themselves, one which is about the way through the archonic beings. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can very easily be sending energy to the very thing you don't want to send energy to. In this case, this particular story, right, APOP would represent the archonic beings, or even represent the demiurge Lucifer itself. The fact that it is Set, which is destroying APOP, is really valuable piece of spiritual knowledge. Set usually gets translated. They try to sometimes place him as Satan, but Set is really just the attacker and eventual dismemberer and killer of his brother Osiris, the famous Osiris story. Retakes over the crown of Egypt. But when you see Set as the egoic mind, or the identity, or the false personality, or all that is false about you, that is Set. So Set is not Satan per se, because Set is one of the four deities, 3 levels down in the creation process. You're talking about Nun and Atum Ra being at the top of the totem pole of the original demiurge creation aspect of ancient Egypt mythology. These are much deeper in when you have Osiris, Isis, Nephthys, and Set. They're representing more bridges between the astral and the physical. Astral type concepts that become material world things. So Set is not Satan. Set is not the demiurge. If you see it simply, you can say it as the mind, which is generally, of course, running like a direct radio receiver to the wishes of the archons, right? What the myth is describing is, in this particular, the myth of Ra and APOP, is because it is Set which is able to kill APOP. What it means is that it becomes the egoic mind, it becomes the personality, it becomes the thing that has been, in a sense, our nemesis. We don't kill that, we don't destroy it. We see through it. We, in a sense, shatter it from its normal control mechanism. And by complete self-definition and moving back to what we are, we take control of that egoic structure. And it gets turned into what Mr. Park would call, not rejection, what did he use it? He's the reflection of that which is false. which is kind of what the spearing story of APOP is going on. But APOP can be seen as the ultimate darkness, the ultimate evil, the ultimate thing that is attempting to swallow the light. So you're talking about the initial thing, or the initial presentation of spiritual warfare is right here in this ancient Egyptian text. It's not the battle of Horus and Set, which, like I say, would be the battle, an internal battle between that which is true and that which is false within the material and the astral realm. The APOP raw battle is literally darkness and light, darkness, the cosmic truth and cosmic false regarding the entire creation and regarding that which is trapped in the matrix. So it's a much bigger myth. It's a much more encompassing myth, and it's the myth that you would then find similarly placed in texts of ancient India, texts of the ancient Maya and the Papaval and the Chilamballum. You'll find it in native Indian mythology. You'll find this battle in the final battles of Norse mythology and Greek mythology. It's the same thing. And they're talking about this cosmic attempt of the forces, what are being called darkness, which you might call the forces of the matrix, against that which is outside the matrix, attempting to liberate that which is inside. So the fact that NASA is choosing, and they're very clear that they know, they're even, of course they know why they're calling their rockets APOP, but that they're actually explaining it openly, that we're naming this after the Egyptian deity of darkness and evil, again indicates this is not by accident. When are they firing the rockets? At exactly 1533. That translates, yes, for those of you who know time, 3:33. So at 3:30, and I said that because I jokingly, when I first got that sent to me, like, hey, did you hear about these rockets that NASA's firing? I made the joke that, yeah, what are they going to fire them at 1:33? Even better, 3:33. They couldn't fire them at 3:29. They couldn't fire them at 3:41. It has to be 3:33. Again, it's indicating that everything that these agencies are doing during the eclipse has a nefarious ring to it. So we've got those two things happening. We've got the lining of the planets. We've got the devil comet. We've got the information that you're going to start seeing demonic beings. We've got a reminder that where these paths will cross. Now we have the what you might call evangelical Christian overlay of all of this, who, in one sense, many of them are believing that Revelation will begin, that the apocalypse will start on Monday, and then soon that Jesus is going to return and the rapture is going to happen, and they really believe this. Now, if you look back in history, you'll find that there have been 20 dates in the last 30 years where Jesus is supposed to return, and no, it just hasn't happened. But now they're really focused on this one. This is when it's going to be it. And of course, what's so strange is for their belief structure, in one sense or another, something kind of has to happen around the eclipse for them to believe that Armageddon is really close. Because if Armageddon, Jesus can't return in their mindset, right, without Armageddon. Armageddon is first, then you have the return. So Jesus won't return without Armageddon. It's a very convoluted, and of course this has to happen in the Middle East, right? The Armageddon, if the Armageddon takes place in Africa or New Zealand or somewhere else, that couldn't be considered correct, because it can only be one specific place in the Middle East. It has to happen in that location, and only that will be classified as official Armageddon. So bizarrely, you've got this overlay of expectation on this date by hundreds of millions of people now, expecting this is about to happen. And I don't necessarily think it's completely false either. Given the information we've just been showing, we can see that these organizations behind the scenes are doing something at this particular eclipse. They're doing something, and they're doing something definitely, we might as well classify it as, spiritually evil. That's what they're doing. Is that going to translate into something physically happening? This is very important. Is it going to come into something physically happening? No. Like Y2K in December 2012, probably nothing will happen physically. It could, but probably not. There will be, literally, you'll get up the April 9th and you'll go, see, nothing happened. And you, in a sense, be right. Nothing will have happened physically. The question will be, what happened energetically? What happened spiritually to the world? And what will that then look like over the next 3 to 6 months? The potential, and it has nothing to do with the eclipse itself. The eclipse is just, obviously, as we've talked about, creating a different change in gravity. So it's creating a different change in space-time. So with a change in space-time, if you do something in the realm of physics, potentially, you might be able to tap into this momentary change of space-time to, open portals, start new simulations, end simulations, initiate contact with the demiurge. Who knows what exactly is being done? But it's something very, very strange. And it's strange that all of these government agencies are preparing a state of emergencies for an eclipse. We're going to get a whole lot of people to our town and they're going to be using a lot of cell phones, and this is what they're saying. But I know we don't believe it. I know there's some people that said, they want all the Americans out in this path of, they're calling it the path of totality, by the way. If you notice this, every single newscast wants to call the eclipse the path of totality. They're using that language. A few people have claimed, they want the people out there and they're going to fly some planes over and drop a new disease on them. And, the problem is there are so many bizarre theories around this, and we can't know that they're false. I can't know that of the 20 theories out there, I can't say I know they're all false. I can't, just like I can't say I know any one of them is correct. But even if whatever's going to happen, if one of the crazy theories is correct, that means you've got 19 that are incorrect. So you have to keep that in mind too, that don't pin on any specific thing is going to happen. Pin on, there's a door that's being opened. Let's put it that, let's change the terminology. A door is being opened on April the 8th. What you might call spiritual warfare in this realm is taking it to a new switch point. This sort of Christian presentation of it likes to point to elements. They like to point that there's a number of similar named towns that the path of the eclipse will go over. And they usually try to say there's 7 or 8 of this, 8 or 9 of that. And actually, it's not true. First of all, when you actually track it and you look for these names, that's not actually true. On the other hand of it, there might be like 150 towns with that name with these various names in the United States. And the fact it goes over 6 or 5 is actually, given the space of the eclipse itself, is not surprising at all. Given that there's so many of them, it's like you could just move the eclipse on any angle and you're going to cover the same number of towns with the same name. But where the two, and there was the third eclipse, the eclipse in 2023, and they like to again show that this becomes the first Greek letter of the alphabet when you lay this out. But what's really interesting is if you lay the crossing points of 2017 and this new one that will come, it crosses in southern Illinois. And as I mentioned in one of my previous locals videos, that is very close to Mound Center of the old mound building population. It's almost at the point where the mounds of Cahokia are outside St. Louis. It crosses 2 or 3 other key ancient mound sites. It crosses 2 parks with names like with very native Indian names, which were burial grounds and petroglyph centers. So it's crossing a very key center of ancient North American old civilization energy centers. It's not exactly crossing over Teotihuacan or crossing over Palenque or Giza, but this center, at least as well as has been preserved, and we can look back and verify Cahokia is one of the biggest ancient sites in North America. And you've got now this crossing point nearly completely over it. I'm not saying, again, that has anything to do with the ancient Cahokian civilization, but it's just very, very strange. So, where do we want to put this? How do I want to end this? Because this is not a prediction video per se. It's not a let's be afraid video. Let's pack up our house with a bunch of prepper tools. Let's go hide in a cave. Let's go. No, you don't want to do any of that. But what you want to see is that this is my thesis, my feeling as to where we're going to see a doorway being at least attempted to be open. What's coming? Of course, it could also be the opposite too. Now, it could be that I've talked about there's been a door open for a long time from the standpoint of knowledge from outside the matrix getting into the matrix. The opportunity for people to gain tremendous spiritual knowledge of what they really are and what this place really is has been at the highest point it's maybe been, certainly in our lives. Maybe they're doing the opposite. Maybe they're with this stuff, they're trying to shut the door. But anyway, the point being is that there's a type of door being opened or closed at this particular moment. And things will be very, very different going forward. Very, very different going forward. That's what you're preparing for. You're preparing mentally to remind yourself that the work you have to do, whatever that work is you feel it is, and whatever your particular direction or question is, should be strengthened from this event. So there's going to be nothing you have to prepare for in the physical world. That's just, I would almost say that's for sure. Yeah, something strange might happen. A big riot might break out somewhere, or something could happen, or by accident or just by chance, a tornado hits somewhere. And of course, they'll blame it on whatever. What's happening is going to be a spiritual moment. So my suggestion is don't be afraid of it. Understand the moment. You decide to use that moment to turn away from what this reality wants you to focus and distract from, and get back to sanity, clarity, total awareness. And in fact, as one of my earliest teachers reminded me, is when an eclipse would come, he told me that really you don't want to be outside staring at it, because technically it's opening a door. It's a door opening to demonic forces is really what happens when an eclipse goes. Symbolically, inner light, not false light, but inner light is being potentially weakened, so dark forces can enter, particularly if you're not aware, if you're not paying attention to it. So he reminded me it's best to stay home and have light, particularly natural light on. He said if you only have electric lights, fine, but candles, fireplaces, just something where there's natural light during that time. And you keep a focus not only on the natural light, but you keep a focus on your own. And how did he describe it? I'll put it in my own words, but it's following what your inner pathway is. It's following what your inner direction is, which should be total knowledge, truth, liberation, whatever terminology you want to use for your inner path. Your focus is there, not to anything that the energetic moment is trying to pull you to. And I would even make an interesting suggestion that the best time to do, if you're interested in sitting down and, in a sense, giving yourself a chance to spiral inward deeper and speak to yourself, it should be at the time they're going to launch these goofball APOP rockets. That see it as if like you have an opportunity to live an Egyptian myth. You have an opportunity on April the 8th to live an Egyptian myth in your moment by moment life. When they fire these APOP rockets, they are, you might say, trying to tap into that energy by doing it. By naming the rockets as they have, they're trying to tap in to the energy of archonic darkness, you have your opportunity to actually have a spiritual warfare response. This is incredible. You have and you know the exact time you can have that response, which is when they fire the rockets, right? So at 3:33, I think it's Eastern time. We'll have to check on. You have to check on the exact time that they're doing this. Yeah, it says 3:33 Eastern Standard Time. That's when they're firing the. And that's right. And right. They're not going to be going from their normal base. Sorry, I where they were before. They'll be fired from Wallops Island, Virginia. Right, Wallops Island, Virginia. So at that exact time, 3:33 Eastern, which I guess would be what, 8:33 England time, and just figure out your time. You have an opportunity to be, in a sense, symbolically raw, set, to be the solar boat, which you might say is your pathway or your commitment vector to total truth. You have an opportunity to be that, and for your own self, in that time frame, we'll call it, we don't want to call it defeat APOP, we'll call it reject everything that APOP represents from the standpoint of the simulation, from the standpoint of the matrix, from the standpoint of false. And you're using your own egoic self and your own egoic personality and identity as part of the process, because Set becomes, which was originally the enemy, becomes one of the great warriors on this pathway. You have this opportunity if you feel like it, and you can alter it slightly. Maybe you want to alter it into Norse mythology or Greek mythology, or, here's your opportunity where then if you want to be Greek mythology, well, you can be Prometheus, right? He who gets eaten every day by the eagle. Then great, you can be Prometheus, and you can get the help of Hercules, and together you will smite the eagle and stop the eating of in this case, which is symbolic of loose energy. You can stop that process. And you're doing it at the exact time when something is attempting to be ramped up. Now, that doesn't mean your process in this moment will stop what's going to be coming in this reality in 6 months or 8 months or 3 months or however this is going to go. What it means is you have used the very moment that's trying to open a doorway of darkness, you've used it to open much more light. And even in one sense, if all of this is wrong, I mean, even if everything I've said today is just coincidental nonsense, it's absolutely nothing going. It's just by chance that Cern is doing this. It's by chance that NASA's named its rockets by this. It's by chance that they've got these demon articles coming out. It's by chance whatever else will happen during the week. It's by chance the governments are doing this or that. It's all a coincidence. There's nothing wrong with taking a few minutes to re-strengthen your inner position of moving towards truth and away from false. There's absolutely nothing wrong with taking a few minutes in the day to reaffirm that. Why not? Best case scenario is if this is a part of the ending of the current simulation, which it very well might be, and the attempt to restart the new simulation one way or another, and or the attempt to need to end the simulation by bringing a whole lot of dark energy, you might say they're talking about dark matter, well, dark energy in to do this. And it's a really important time to be refocusing your attention. So like I say, I don't think there's anything at all to be fearful about, you might say. There's nothing to be afraid of during this moment of time, because it's another opportunity to reaffirm that which you are, to reaffirm the totality of yourself, to reaffirm the power of your own being, and to have an opportunity when there might be a switch in the spiritual warfare moving upward. Here's a chance for you to turn your own switch on from the standpoint of strengthening and using your own inner power. So it's a win-win situation. That's what my suggestion now would be for April the 8th, to use it as a reaffirming tool for your own power, for your own vector, for your own direction, and then whatever comes from it, you can feel like, yeah, if you then look all of a sudden 2 months later and say, holy fuck, yeah, a portal did open that moment. You can look back and say, and I used it for something really valuable and important. I wasn't up there staring at the sky, drinking a beer. I was using that moment to the most effective way I could. That's I guess what my whole point of this was to show you the bizarreness of the day, that I don't think it's by accident, that I don't think you need to necessarily be ready for some sort of giant calamity that's going to happen at the moment the sun goes away for a few minutes. But it's to see this very strange presentation of fear that's being presented by the government agencies. And again, it was similar, like I say, it's similar to Y2K, similar to all these other things where they pump out these warnings, get people concerned, get people, keep that anxiety level up. And then, of course, nothing happens. And more times people will just begin to see, well, there's nothing ever to be concerned about. They're just trying to create fear. And that might be part of what's going on behind the scenes. That might be added. There might be another bizarre anxiety game being played. But it's bigger than that, because anyone with any kind of just any logic whatsoever, no one has ever heard of a state of emergency being called or the sun going away for a couple of minutes. You use that for a hurricane, for a tornado, for something that's like really dangerous. So on one level, something might have been leaked that has been blown out of proportion of something that's going on spiritually, and it somehow got bizarrely leaked in the wrong way through various government channels that they kind of can't turn off, that they've told them they have to be ready for a physical preparedness moment, and it's actually energetic. It's actually spiritual. It's that which you have to be prepared for. So I look at this, no matter what, as an opportunity to regain your deepest power, your deepest connection to your own source of authority, to your own knowledge, to your own commitment, to your own sanity, your own clarity. And take that, no matter what, take it forward. Again, even if the day turned out to be absolutely zero, nothing. There was it was all just a coincidence. Re-strengthening your own commitment to whatever your personal commitment is for, that's a good thing. So I'm leaving you with that. Take that for what you wish. We'll see how the next week goes. If anything else pops in, I'll keep those information going on my locals channel. Really good group there that is providing some valuable information and providing some valuable communication back and forth with each other. I'm really appreciative to have the people who are there, and it's been great. The new book, Exit the Cave 2, is being written. It's done it's done in draft form now. Now I'm kind of just in the editing stage, and I am in what you might call making it a bit more interesting to read. It's a bit, at this point, it's almost be like technical would be the best way of describing it. It's just a lot of technical information. And I don't think it would be the most enjoyable reading experience. So I'm finding ways to make it make it a better read. And that's what I'm doing over the next 2 or 3 weeks, is upping my creativity level to put into the book. Otherwise, thanks to everyone again for your support, for just the well wishes, and for everything that you're doing for making me feel like what I do has value. So it's appreciated. So I'm on my locals channel 2 or 3 times a week. Please drop in. Please come over there. Use the 8th of April for something very, very valuable for yourself. Don't get caught up in the hysteria. Don't get caught up in the distraction part of it. But don't just instantly fluff off it's all nothing to see here. Just move along. What there might be is something that you can't see. And that's what you have to be clear and aware for. But it's a great opportunity to regain and reaffirm your inner power. See you guys soon. Cheers.